We're going live, and you know what that means. Thanksgiving! Yeah, I got a turkey hat on for this week's episode because why not be in the festive mood and give thanks where you can. So I thought, why not wear this little turkey hat? What do you think? It'll look pretty good? I think it's fun. Little turkey legs. Gobble, gobble, gobble. So today we're actually going to be doing videos in the city of Anaheim, California. I'm kind of excited to be talking about Anaheim and this particular region. And what I'm actually going to do is typically I only show cash price, but we're actually going to show what a lease payment would look like or a power purchase agreement. Now I'm going to actually show a couple different configurations, and we're going to talk a little bit in depth on that. I already have a design in the system configured with Axia by QCell's financier that handles the PPAs, that's Enfin. They also have another lease organization that they brought on. It's not in the system yet, so I can't show you any of their pricing in comparison, but at least I have something to show you and talk to you about, because we've been primarily focused on just cash purchases. And while I think cash is great when you're making the switch to clean renewable energy, I think we should all be so thankful that the sun is up every day and we're able to capture that sunlight and convert it into usable energy, and then now we can actually store it at home. So I hope this Thanksgiving, I know it seems weird, but just be thankful for the sun. But let's get into the city of Anaheim, look at some of these properties, pick out a couple to design in open solar, see the cash price, and then let's take one of those designs and run it in the Aurora software for the lease option. And that way you can kind of get an idea of what a lease payment will look like. Because while the federal tax credit expires for homeowners financing for ownership or paying cash, that the federal tax credit's gone on December 31st, it will still be here for an additional year till the end of 2026 on leases and power purchase agreements. So those organizations are, going to be better off, at least for the short term. So I wouldn't be surprised if many of you have been seeing a lot of offers for a lease or a power purchase agreement, and they can make sense depending on your particular situation and what type of financing you have available. Of course, anytime during the stream you can go ahead and chat with me. I do have my chat up on the teleprompter. If you didn't watch the video that I posted earlier in the week about some of the equipment that I use, obviously I have the Elgato teleprompter up. And this thing's phenomenal because I can look straight at you. I can see the conversation. I do have the screen dim. That's why I usually get really close so I can see it, because the text is kind of small. I don't have the extra large. They came out with that newer one, which is really big. I might upgrade, who knows? But for right now, I'm pretty content with the teleprompter I have and this current setup. So let's get into it, right? Of course, if you're looking to make the switch to clean renewable energy, you want a quote, hit me up at Renewable Innovations. That's reinnovations.org. You can just go on there, request a quote. If you already have some quotes and you want a third-party consultation, so we can kind of review the options together, make sure they're good. I know a lot of those door-to-door sales guys are a little pushy at times, and you don't always get the best deal. Sometimes you're getting a 3.5% escalator. Maybe you don't need that escalator. Maybe the payment can be better without it. Those are things we're going to be talking about today in this video, because I'm going to show you a 0% escalator, which I would consider as a regular lease because it's a levelized PPA payment, a 2.99% escalator, or maybe it's 2.9, and then a 3.5% escalator. Those are the three options I have with QCell's financier, which is Enfin. They actually own that division as well. They have their own financing branch. Obviously, they manufacture panels, and then they do installations through Axia. So we're partnered with them. Give you quotes from directly from QCell, so you can get QCell modules. I know there's inventory shortages in the industry right now for most contractors, but if you go directly with QCell, you can definitely have them installed. That's not going to be a problem. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're doing these videos every Wednesday until the end of the year. So yeah. So let's see. Let's look for some good houses in Anaheim. I know they're going to kind of bounce around a little bit. See what we have out here. This one's pretty nice. 3-bedroom, 3-bath, Look at that, a $50,000 price reduction. Not affiliated with Realtor.com or any of the realtors or the homes that we're looking at. Kind of just picking out random properties that look good for having solar installed. And then we're going to kind of design a quote. So this looks like S tile. This is concrete tile up on the roof. Does not look like they have solar, at least from the photos that we're seeing. I don't see any on the front, didn't see any on the side. Okay, this looks pretty good. So yeah, let's grab this property real quick. Copy that. Let's jump over here and drop that in. Oh, that's a weird house. Oh, it's back. Okay, so that was the front. Okay, I was all turned around. I was like, what the heck? Okay, let's create project. And then let's get into the design. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone if you didn't catch the beginning. So let's see if we load a 3D map. Looks like we are. Yeah. So this is the beauty with using open solar for that 3D modeling, and then I can turn on for shading. So we can see the back roof, it's crazy steep. So I'm gonna say this would be a tough one to install on. So this is not a good example, but let's see how steep that roof is. Most organizations, most contractors won't install on roofs over 32 degrees. It just becomes incredibly difficult and dangerous. And this is not even, yeah, this is saying it's over 40, and it's probably steeper than that because it's hiding it. I'm not even able to pull it off the wall. Yeah, those really steep roofs. I mean, 42 degrees is pretty wild. Thanks, Prince. Happy Thanksgiving. I appreciate it. Yeah, so this one's not going to be a good example because I just don't think we would probably be able to install on that steep of a roof. And I don't want to use a property with that type of example. So we're going to discard that and go back. Let's grab a different house. It doesn't look that steep here. That's why I'm kind of confused. I wonder if there's two addresses. No, that was it. South San, yeah. Okay. So let's go back to our search. See if we can find something else. This is a big 10-bedroom house. 4-bedroom, looks like to be a comp roof. There's actually not a lot of listings in the Anaheim area. As you can see, there's 132 homes. I'm just looking at homes, nothing contingent or pending. This one doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look like it has solar. Cute little backyard. Okay. Do they say anything in the description? They usually put it at the end when they have solar. I don't see anything that mentions solar. Okay. So let's grab this one on Garnet. Yeah, pretty choppy roof, that's for sure. Jump over to design, let that 3D model load. Now, one year for Thanksgiving, I actually did beef Wellingtons. That was kind of fun. Oh, so this is a detached, I have condos unselected. This is what's annoying when a realtor improperly puts the information in the MLS. You can tell this is an attached, this isn't a single family home. It's a condo or townhouse, and I had those deselected. And we're gonna grab this roof over here on this side for the other property because it's nice and clean. I'd imagine the square footage is about the same. So we got 12, we got about 16 panels up here. What was the square footage of this? This was about 1,500. So yeah, we're going off of that base energy usage, 6,684 kilowatt hours. We are under Southern California Edison. Keep in mind that in the Anaheim area, they have Anaheim Public Utility as well. Being that they're a municipal, you probably don't need storage. So you could, if you were under APU, you wouldn't necessarily need the battery. It's still in your best interest to get a battery, be more grid independent, be more grid resilient. Obviously, you can be backup ready and many other things, but yeah, it's just one of those. Now, I do want to do this with microinverters because there's going to be a lot of shading. So we're going to grab Q-Cell's microinverter for the Qtron panels that's integrated right into the panel. I guess not right into it. It is removable for servicing, so because it comes with a 25-year warranty. So it can be removed off the panel, but it's pre-attached, wired up, and then it has the trunk cabling for it as well, which is really nice. And then we're going to do a Tesla Powerwall. I think one should be more than sufficient. A lot of people are, one is all you really need. In most applications, there's not a whole lot of reasons to have more than one battery, unless you really, I mean, it depends on the system size. For 16 panels, one battery is probably more than sufficient here. We're going to be just under a 6 kilowatt system. What did battery accessories, yeah. And the gateway. The Franklin ones are coming up. Very annoying. There's GTE. Yeah, there we go. Backup gateway. That's what we're going to want. And then we need the sub panel. Probably doing that one. It's an SPP. Definitely would help if I could spell it. There we go. Grab that. So put in, I would imagine on the condo it's got a 100 amp panel, so I'm just doing a 100 amp sub panel. So we're a little more than what the home needs in terms of its production. We're at 156% offset with this design. Mind you, we are facing east, right? Yeah, well, no, we're south. We're like perfect south. And if we check that shading real quick, just to kind of see how it looks. Yeah, I guess these trees aren't causing too much shade. Here's what that report looks like. So yeah, the winter months, the solar is definitely taking a hit in production. We're seeing November in the evenings being pretty bad. Obviously, December is really low, January is really low, and February is pretty low. But so 8 months out of the year, you're getting pretty close to 100% sun access, which is good. That's sufficient. Obviously, it's an oversized system anyways, but it's just good to check those numbers and know that, hey, during the winter, your production's going to look way lower than the rest of the year. And then from here, let's look at this cash price. So here we go, we got a $32,038 for the cash price. We're using the Q-Cell Qtron modules. There's 16 of them. That's about a 6.9 kilowatt solar system, 430 watts, 25-year performance, 25-year equipment, and then using the Qtron microinverters, these 349Bs. That's a 5.6 kilowatt AC rating, pretty good. Pretty good AC to DC ratio. They designed them in line with the modules. And then obviously one Tesla Powerwall 3, the backup gateway since we're going to go AC coupled, and then the emergency loads panel. So there you got your whole setup configured. And you can see, look at how big of a drop the production is for January and December. It's just enough to recharge the battery and provide some power to the home. So yeah, your consumptions, you're going to see that battery have a hard time charging 100%. It really just depends on your usage during that period. But look at how much the jump is come March. I mean, you go from 14.7 kilowatt hours of production to 31. And that just, the sun is sitting so much lower during those 4 months of the winter. And it's really 3 months. I don't think November is all that bad. November's at 21. But December, January, February, yeah, production's pretty low because the sun is sitting much lower in the sky as we're moving around. So we know all that. 32,000 would be your cost out the door. Old bill around $226 a month. New bill, you're about $19. So not too bad for a cash purchase. No tax credits here, but remember with Axia by QCell, they sign you up for a virtual power plant program, so you can get some money back for your battery, a couple $100s a year for that. And then they also sign you up for the renewable energy certificates. I did a previous video on that if you're not familiar with them. I wouldn't be surprised because not a lot of organizations actually offer them. Definitely none of the local guys, because it's a pretty complicated program. But you can get some money back for having your solar installed as well. So between the Powerwall and this solar system, you could easily get back $500 a year in credits that are available. So you'd get a gift card from QCell every year for whatever the amount would be, between $400 and $500 for this size system. And then obviously there's the self-generation incentive rebate program. From my understanding, Axia by QCell does do this program as well, so you could see some money back for that. I'm not showing it on here, but that's if you bought it. Now, remember, I wanted to talk about leases and power purchase agreements. Most of the industry is doing a power purchase agreement. There's not really a lease anymore. So everything's going to be considered a power purchase agreement. They do overlap a little bit, because to me, a levelized power purchase agreement is a lease, right? And then what I mean by levelized is that there's no annual rate increase. So in most of the power purchase agreements, the rate will increase over year. So your payment goes up a little bit every year. If you do a levelized lease, which has 0% increase over the 25-year term, then it's basically a lease, right? You're buying the power, but it's the same payment every month, no matter what. Whereas, with a escalator, where your payment might start off lower, it does increase gradually over time, typically 2.9 to 3.5%. So let's jump over to Aurora, because I already designed a system to show you that, because I thought this would be a good time to talk about it, because the tax credit's going to be gone. So here we have this system, right? And we would be pretty much somewhere right around here. I don't have it matching up exactly, but you'd be somewhere right around in this area. So, and how I'm figuring that out is we have this 525. So that's the total gross price per watt. To come up with that number, we're going to take the 32,038 and divide it by the system size, 6,880, which gives us 465. Okay, so we can be a little lower. So if you're at 465, okay, it would be 469. So you would be buying power at 21 cents a kilowatt hour. You see up here, it's a 0% escalator, so the rate does not increase. So that means your monthly payment is locked at $199.51 for the 25-year term lease. This can be very attractive because you have no out-of-pocket expenses besides your monthly payment, right? You're basically replacing the utility company with a solar company at the end of the day with a locked rate for that term. Now, we did oversize the system quite substantially. So we're trying to make sure you're generating enough power for the long term, because it's not as easy to add on to your lease, right? You'd have to do a new financing option in most cases, or pay cash. So if we shrink the system size, maybe we went down to 125%, right? We could work out and find that sweet spot for you. But at $199 a month, you are saving about $30, right, in savings every month. And you're not having to worry about large spikes in the summers with the utility company, because your payment's always going to be the same. So this is really great for families or those on fixed income, because you know what your electricity bill is going to be every single month for 25 years. And as long as the system's designed right, it's going to be very favorable for you. Again, we can go over different numbers. Now, what we could do is increase that rate. So if we went to the 2.99% escalator, so instead of having a levelized payment We could look at options that start off a little lower and then they gradually increase over the next 25 or so years. So we're going to look for that same rate. We're at 465, and so we got a closer number. So, and you can see the cost came substantially down because of the escalator over the 25-year term. And this is at a 2.99%. So instead of buying electricity at 21 cents a kilowatt hour for 25 years, you're going to start buying it at 15 and a half cents in year one. And it'll gradually increase. So we're on this one, right? So now your payment, instead of being $199, it's $147 a month. So if it's going to increase 2.99% every year, well, let's see what the next year would look like. And all you would do is I'm just going to do 1 year. So your second year payment is going to be $151.66, right? So it's going to gradually increase. Basically, you can expect your utility bill to increase roughly $4 every year for 25 years. That's kind of what you would be looking at. So it would probably take you at $4, it would take you close to 15 years, 12 to 15 years to reach the levelized payment of that $199. So this is why it's important to understand the lease program. Now, if your focus is just getting the lease cost down as much as you can, maybe you plan on buying out the lease, because you can do that. There are buyout periods for you to buy them out. Usually the first one is in year 5. Now, maybe in that situation, you want to go with the 3.5% escalator. I know it's only a little bit more, but it will bring down the rate. And in turn, bring down your monthly payment with the lease configuration. So let's let this load. All right, so we're looking for that same rate, $4.65. And we are at 63, so the next jump up is going to be at the 481. So, and this is a perfect example where the 3.5 is not as attractive as that 2.9. That 2.99% escalator is honestly giving you the best rate option. So we can see that the monthly payment, even between these two, we'd have to go with the higher one. You know, it'd be kind of, I would have to see where, I mean, it's only 2 cents. We might be able to figure that one out. So yeah, you'd be at 17 cents a kilowatt hour that you'd start buying electricity at. Whereas on the other option, you were starting to buy electricity at 15 and a half cents. So you already started in a lower payment right off the bat, which is very attractive for you, right? So we can jump back over to that 2.99. Now, of course, if you just wanted to buy the system outright, that's definitely doable for you to achieve, right? So you're right here at this is your base price, and then that is with the cost of the battery, it being a tile roof, you know, the sub panel, that's the extra costs associated with the installation of the project. So it's all about finding that sweet system. Not all solar consultants really understand the leasing thing. I've been participating in a lot of Axia's virtual trainings. They do stuff like weekly, which is really nice, and their team does a pretty good job of explaining stuff to most degrees. So if you are considering solar and you're just like, hey, I don't have the cash for this, at least not right now, maybe you have some bonuses coming that you're expecting over the next couple years, maybe you want to consider leasing it and then you buy it out when you have that buyout option, because you can definitely do that and there's no penalty for you to do it. Of course, if you go with like a 0% escalator, your monthly payment does start off higher, but it's levelized, which I would recommend this for anyone that is basically on a fixed income or doesn't really want to see the price increase. They're not so focused on the lowest monthly payment right now. They're thinking more long term, like, hey, we're going to be in this house for the next 10, 20, 15, 10, 20, 30 years, right? Then you're probably going to want a levelized option so your payment's fixed for the entire term versus the escalator. Because the escalator kind of is like interest, kind of, so that's a good way of looking at it. Now, if you did want to finance this option, I can say that the financing, I do have that in my proposal. So let's look at let's look at the 30-year option even. So on the 30-year option, it's $310 a month to finance this. That is from NFIN. They have, from my understanding, kind of gone away from dealer fees. This isn't something I've really touched on in any of my videos previously or presently, but yeah, you're pretty much looking at $310 over a 30-year term. That's quite the substantial time. As you can see, the total payments come out to be $111,000. That's not amazing. If you're able to secure a shorter term loan with better rates, they do have a 10-year at 2.99, which isn't too bad, but maybe your bank can offer you a better home improvement loan. There are credit unions that I've worked with and have sources with, so that way maybe you could look into one of those financing options. So you basically would be paying cash, but you're getting your own and securing your own loan. Maybe you're able to get like an 8.99 or a 7.99 from your bank. It's just lending within the solar industry has definitely tightened up, and a lot of the organizations aren't lending the same way they used to, or they've just increased their dealer fees to be obnoxious. So while I'm showing you a price at $32,000 cash or finance, right? It's the same price no matter what. The dealer fee gets stacked into that. So this price could be 30% more. So this could have been a $41,000 system if you wanted a 25-year loan at $599. It really comes down to that dealer fee. Most organizations don't disclose what the amount is. Most solar reps aren't super familiar with what the rate actually is. Sometimes they just get stuck on the lowest interest rate, and that's what they sell is like, hey, look, I can get you a 2.99, but your solar system costs you $60,000 because $20,000 of it was a dealer fee to buy down the rate. So it's like you're just prepaying for the interest, realistically. So it's good to make sure to consult with someone that's familiar with all these different financing options, especially as we transition away from having the federal investment tax credit. Now, you're going to see a lot of power purchase agreements pushed to you. So definitely look at those, but look at the cash options, and then maybe talk to your bank or your local credit union to see what you can do, because they want to help you with your home improvement project. So we have this great system in Anaheim. I think this was a good design. Keep in mind this is using N-phase microinverters. It's not just TC coupled. That's an NFIN requirement from my understanding. The system doesn't let me just do DC coupled. It only lets me use the microinverters and AC couple the Powerwall. So there is that. Let's look for another property, see if we can't do something a little bit bigger in that regards. Maybe do something even in Anaheim public utility jurisdiction. We'll see if we can find that. So we have this nice 3-bedroom, 3-bath. It doesn't look like it has solar. Pretty nice property, that's for sure. I think it's weird that everything is just white, gray, white, gray, white, gray. Yeah, okay. Get a lot of inside photos, no drone shots. Do they mention solar in the description? Close to downtown. Brand new HVAC system. Okay, that's all we got. Brand new HVAC system. All right, moving on to the next project. On Mayflower. It's funny, I picked Mayflower and I'm wearing a turkey hat for Thanksgiving. That's great. This is on Mayflower. And this has some good orientation over here. It looks like this might be like a garage or something. So let's work on configuring that. So we've been doing a lot of pricing with Axia. I think this next one, let me do some pricing from Energy Service Partners. I haven't really shown their pricing. I haven't updated it recently or checked anything, but I haven't seen any emails indicating there's been any price changes. So we should be fine with that. So I made some changes real quick, and then let's grab their panel. So they use QCell 410. Let's grab that guy. So yeah, that's a pretty tight roof. Definitely not. Does not look like I would be fitting a second row under there. Maybe if I go landscape, let's see if we can fit more. That wasn't too bad, but I think we're gonna fit about the same. Kind of like the landscape. It's still 10 panels. I was hoping for a couple more, but it is what it is. And then, ooh, that's kind of a rough. It's pretty much, I really think that, let's check the shading on that lower roof. Yeah, that shading on that lower roof is trash. So there's no point in putting modules there. We're gonna end up putting modules on this north side of this roof, which I know looks a little crazy, sounds a little crazy, but you know, sometimes you got to put panels where you can fit them, where you have better sun access. Just because this isn't north doesn't mean it's a good roof to install panels on. Sometimes north is better if it's a first story, right? That's going to get heavily shaded. You got to remember the sun is coming, the sun is coming from over here, right? And it's beaming this way. So this roof is always going to be shaded most of the time, and that's what the shading report shows. Look how much shading this roof gets. So putting modules here is lower production than putting them up here. And the second story is always going to be better production. So that's where a knowledgeable consultant comes in for that. And then we're going to, this is about 10,000, so we're going to do about, we'll say this was 8,500 for their annual energy consumption. And they are still Southern California Edison. There we go. And jump back over to design, let this recalculate. And we'll go with the Tesla system. We'll do DC coupled. We'll grab ESPs, Powerwall. We'll just do one. And then I'm going to do this one as Powerwall. Let's grab that backup switch. That's super weird that it moved. It's like the category changed. Okay. So we're going to do this one as Tesla Powerwall. And then we're actually going to compare it to QCell, or I'm sorry, Enfin, Enphase IQ10C. That's their latest battery. And I've had some people try and tell me that Enphase has an option for this battery to be like staggered, so it's not as deep. I have not seen a single photo, so I don't know what these people are talking about. I haven't seen any spec sheets about that. I haven't seen any photos about it. I haven't seen anybody install an IQ10C with the two battery packs like staggered. I've only seen them installed like this. So here we go. I want IQ10C, and then we are going to need, and we have the inverter accessories, we need the IQ6 combiner box. That's required for this. Let me not have that in there. Let's go other components. That's the system controller. 6C, there we go. And yeah, that's pretty much all you need. And then this would have the meter collar. So there wouldn't be anything for you to need to worry about. So we have two systems. We have a DC coupled system using Tesla Powerwall 3, and then we have an N-phase microinverter system using their IQ10C. That's their latest battery. It is only 10 kilowatt hours of output. I believe it's 7.6 kilowatts, or 10 kilowatt hours of storage with 7.6 kilowatts of output. It has a pretty decent surge capability as well. So let's compare this. Again, this is from ESP. They're a nationwide installer, or not a nationwide, a statewide installer. They install throughout California. They've been in business for a while. They're definitely a fast installer, to say the least. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but we wouldn't be installing your system before the end of the year. I think anybody promising that, I think, is just setting themselves up for cancellations come December 31st. So here we go, Tesla Powerwall 3 system. What do we have here? A 7.7 kilowatt, 19 panels, 405 watts. Again, these are Q-Cells Q-Peak Duo, all black. These are great panels. 11.5 kilowatt inverter that's built into the Powerwall, using that backup switch so the whole home's backed up with that one unit. And then switching over to N-phase, it would be recommended to use two N-phase IQ10Cs for the backup configuration. I might be missing some stuff here for the 10C, but probably not. That should be okay. Same 19 panels, but we're using the microinverters. These are the IQ8 Plus. Those are what's standard from Energy Service Partners. It's not a higher wattage microinverter. If you do want a higher wattage microinverter with ESP, just let me know. There is an extra cost for those higher microinverters, but it's not much. I'm just using what's included at standard pricing. And then we have obviously the 10 kilowatt hour battery. So $34,000, $34,500. Look at that. N-phase is about $500 cheaper than Tesla. So what are we sacrificing in these two designs? Well, with Tesla, we are a string system. So they are optimized strings, so that's great, but you don't have any module level monitoring. So with the N-phase configuration, you can see the performance of every individual panel, which is great for a shaded roof. It's great for multiple roof planes. I don't have like a ton of reasons to, module level monitoring, because in my opinion, more components creates more points of failure. I'm just following, the rules of mechanics here. You want to simplify design so there's fewer parts, so there's fewer points of failure. To me, the microinverter is good. I think it is a pretty nice technology. I think it's better than an optimizer in many cases, not always, but it still has a failure rate that is equal to that of an inverter, in my opinion. And what I've seen online and researching is that, most string inverters, most hybrid inverters, most microinverters, the industry consensus from many of the reports that I've read is that they all have around a 3% failure rate. It's not crazy high, but if you had one inverter installed on your home, that one inverter in your Tesla Powerwall per se has a 3% chance, potentially 3% chance of failing. When you install 19 microinverters on your roof, well, it's not one inverter, it's 19 inverters. So you've increased your chance of one of those inverters to fail by 19, because it's 19. Each one has a 3% potential failure, right? So that's my opinion on it. The optimizers aren't much better. I believe they have a slightly higher failure rate. It's kind of, there's not enough research on that I've been able to find on an optimizer's failure rate. But that's kind of where I stand on it. And then what are we also sacrificing with the N-phase system? Well, with the N-phase system, we're only getting 10 kilowatt hours of storage versus 13.5. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, and N-phase has a really strong battery chemistry. So this does work out in your favor. So while you are basically, 30% less in storage capacity, 35% less storage capacity, it still pencils out because they're using lithium iron phosphate. They've really dialed in their battery cells from whoever they have manufacturing them, and the degradation rate of them appears to be much lower than most batteries. But again, this is all on paper. What we see in the real world will depend. This battery hasn't even been out a year. The last battery was barely out a year. We just never get enough data off of one set of batteries. Tesla's had the Powerwall 2 for many years, about 7 or 8 years before the Powerwall 3 came out. And obviously they have all their vehicles, so we know how well their batteries are. We have data. There's a lot of publicly published information on various forums and car sites to provide that information that we can see, like, oh, the degradation of these NMC batteries is really low. That's great. That's what we want to see. And in a stationary battery in the Powerwalls, many people have reported retaining a lot of storage. So take that as it is, a grain of salt. But the importance of that degradation has to do with your savings over long term. That's basically what I was trying to get at. As you can see, the Tesla Powerwall 3, the savings is around $81,000, right? And this is factoring in the degradation of the battery over 25 years. Now, keep in mind, this is just going off of this, what the rated degradation is. So it's playing it out in a worst case scenario. End phases is about $15,000 more off of that same degradation, right? So over 25 years, it's retaining more power. So at some point, it would be really nice if the open solar software did this, or there was a battery software that showed the battery's junction point. So you could see, like, okay, at year 17, the end phase still had, that's when end phase and Tesla had the same amount of capacity, right? At some point they meet in terms of their degradation. Is it at year 17? Is it at year 12? Is it at year 5? At what point? Obviously, a Tesla Powerwall isn't degrading from 13.5 kilowatt hours to 10 in 5 years. So it's definitely not happening anywhere. But maybe at year 15, maybe it has 12.5 kilowatt hours. Maybe it has 12 kilowatt hours. I do remember the original Powerwall 2 shipments, Gen 1. Those were actually 14 kilowatt hour batteries. There are some old spec sheets that you can find that, and then it says usable 13.5. So I don't know if Tesla still ships the batteries with more storage in them. So if they have 14, maybe 14.2 kilowatt hours of storage. So there's already a little bit of a buffer there. I would assume so, because they let you use the full Powerwall. But that's the big advantage to Enphase's battery, is that LFP. If safety is a concern, not that there's any issues with the Tesla Powerwall, but like, I don't know, maybe you're an active person in shooting guns or something, right? Maybe you got a shooting range in your backyard. I don't know. Lithium iron phosphate is less likely to have thermal runaway. I have had some people tell me that it has the same, it's not impossible, so that's why it's less likely. Everything I've ever read, less of this one individual, has indicated that thermal runaway is almost non-existent with LFP batteries. So I only had this one executive tell me, like, oh, it's not impossible. They can still have thermal runaway. And I'm like, are you just saying that because your battery's NMC? I don't know, man. I call them bullshit here, because I've looked at a lot of the testing, and I haven't seen thermal runaway like I do with NMC. Not that it's dangerous, all batteries have their risks. Anything has a risk. You got electricity running through your house, right? You could drill in the wall and hit a wire and electrocute yourself. Like, it could happen if you're not, you're not being careful. So don't do that. But these both use the backup switch, which is nice. So that's worth noting, I'd have to definitely double check, make sure in the ESP portal that the pricing's right, but it's probably somewhere right around here. So, for $500 less to get module level monitoring, I get less storage, less power output too. So you don't have as much power capabilities. That one Powerwall can absolutely power your whole home. No doubt about it. It can start a 5-ton air conditioner. It can run a 5-man spa. Tesla has advertised this. They have proven it. They've tested it. One IQ10C ain't going to do that. You need a second one. So when you add in that second one, well, your cost is going to go up. How much is it going to go up? Well, let's find out. So I'm going to double this and jump over to batteries. And jump over here and go to ESP and go to IQ10Cs. So that's going to recalculate. I want to write 2x, so we know it's 2. And hit save. So 10C. So now you have 20 kilowatt hours of storage capacity, over 14 kilowatts of AC power. You have more than enough surge capabilities to power the whole home. You don't need to be like, kind of conservative on like, whoa, what are we using during this outage? With normal grid usage, you don't need to stress it. So there you have it, $7,000 more. So now when you compare the Enphase system to the Tesla, right? Yeah, this is less storage and a little bit less power output, 11.5. Compared to Enphase, now we're 20 kilowatt hours with 14 kilowatts. This feels more justified. That initial 10 kilowatt hour feels very budget oriented. Okay, Prince has a good question. Would you advise to run the solar wires through the attic or on the walls around the house? Does it make a difference safety-wise, or is it more for looks? Well, here's the thing. A lot of the times you're going to end up with external conduit no matter what. And that's most typical on a 2-story home, but even so on a 1-story home. So a lot of it has to do with aesthetics. There are some jurisdictions where they won't let you run conduit in the 3-foot fire setback because they say it is a hazard for the fire department when they get on the roof to vent it that they might trip on it. Mind you, there's solar panels, dormer vents, ABS pipes. There's plenty of other things that they can trip on besides a stick of conduit that has it should have a reflective sticker for them to see. That's beyond the point. At the end of the day, when you put it in the attic, you can only go so far. You're not going to actually, you can't really run it in the walls. Now, I've talked to some guys that supposedly at one organization, supposedly they would run it in the wall somehow. They said they like fished it with the HVAC equipment or something. I have no idea. It sounded like a load of shit to me. But supposedly they were able to retrofit in the walls without opening up the drywalls. Not happening. So when you come into the attic, the only thing you're avoiding is any conduit up here on the roof and any conduit coming through the eave, which would come down the house. So instead what happens is he comes in the attic, he makes his penetration. Here, let's switch to the 3D view. So if you're in this attic, right, you got to get to this first story. You got to get down here, right, over there. So how do you get down to this lower section? Well, you pop out of the attic and then you run a stick down the wall. You inevitably have some exterior conduit. The only thing you're preventing is there being conduit right here at the eave. Or you have conduit, like in this, you would probably have a junction box over here and a junction box over here. So there would be a conduit that's going over the ridge cap. If it's far enough back on the house, like you're not going to see it from the street really, and it's supposed to be painted to match the roof. So, I mean, you probably might even still have this, or if you did it in the attic and you didn't want that one jump, then you're going to end up with 2 conduit penetrations in the attic instead of just one coming out of the eave. I personally would prefer it to come out of my eave. Why is that? Well, I don't want water getting, you already got to make penetrations into the attic, right? You got to make penetrations into those trusses. So why do you want to make a 1-inch hole to put a flashing and put this waterproof box in? I don't care how well they do it. It's unnecessary when you can just come out of the eave. If that leaks, guess what? It's in the eave. It's really not going to find its way into the house. It could, sure, but you can see it. You'll see that the wood there is rotting away if they didn't do a very good job with their flashing. Comp roofs are a little bit easier for it, but tile is a lot harder to penetrate into the attic. Usually you want to use a dual layer flashing method. Put one down on the felt, and then you put another one up on top of the tile, and then you should have like a little booty. Just like, I know some people get all crazy about these, I think they're EDPMs, they're little boots that go on. They're on ABS pipes, they're mainly on ABS pipes. People get all crazy about those, and it's like, you need that. You want that little booty there, and you put caulking in it, or you put roofing mastic in it, whatever you do to create a nice watertight seal between the flashing, because you got to think the flashing hole is bigger than the freaking pipe. So you need something to close that hole up. You would typically want a rubber boot to go on top of it with a sealant within that boot. Many companies just use roofing mastic around the outside, which is fine, that works, but over time, you know, that gap between the pipe and the flashing, it's going to seep in, and you're going to end up with cracks and everything. And that boot is much better to have, and I don't think a lot of companies install those at the end of the day out there. But yeah, I would recommend coming out of the eave, because you're going to see it no matter what. Now, if you don't want to see, I can understand you don't want to see this conduit thing come out right at the front of the house. Cool, let's put it in the back, and then they can run the conduit under the eave. It's more work for sure. It could cost a little bit more, but then they just run it along the top of the eaves right there against the stucco, and then they come down. So you don't actually see the penetration in the front of the house. If you had a first-story roof, I've seen that on many different homes where they've done that, and they do shitty jobs. Their conduit's all crooked. It should be following the roof lines. It should look clean and professional. If you got crooked conduit lines, that's really a telltale. Like, that's what homeowners should be asking installers for. Let me see your roof conduit runs, you know, because seriously, it's ridiculous how some of these guys do it. That's their signature up on the roof, right? That's the craftsmanship. That's what's going to be changing in the industry come 2026, is the fact that you're going to have more skilled professionals entering the space. I'm working with electricians currently that I have much more respect for and understanding with than I ever had with anybody in the solar industry. You know, they actually know what they're doing, and they understand the electrical code. They actually look up the electrical code to reference stuff, and they care about their work because they are electricians, and they got into the field because that's what they like doing. And getting into solar is exciting to them because, you know, it's new types of electrical work for them to do and new ways to help homeowners. They're not trying to do solar and replace solar companies. But they wouldn't mind picking up, you know, 1, 2, 3 jobs a month, right? Or servicing the systems that they've heard of people being neglected on because of poor workmanship, poor installation practices, and the companies are gone. It's amazing how many shortcuts have occurred in this space. And I know I kind of went off topic about the conduit, but it's really, it's not even an aesthetics thing, because it comes down off the roof. There's no way for anybody to really run the conduit, run wire in the walls down here where your main electrical panel is. It's just, you're going to inevitably have you're going to eventually see some conduit. You can do your best to hide it behind gutters, hide it under the eaves, right? How it's ran can be done much better than like, hey, this is my shortest distance. I need to save as much money as I can because I sold you the cheapest system on the market, right? That's one of those things. So just ask for their work on that for sure. You're welcome. I think I went off in a little tangent there, but there's another good video coming out on Wednesday. or on Friday. Friday, I have another video coming out on Friday, and then I believe it's about home insurance for solar. There's quite a few things changing in that space, so I think you're going to be really interested in learning about what's going on in the insurance industry, how is it affecting people with solar, and probably going solar moving forward. So really good video to check out. But yeah, I think that's kind of it. I mean, would I go with Enphase? Would I go with Tesla? I really like the Tesla Powerwall 3. I think it's a good design. I like Enphase microinverters, but I hate their freaking battery. I freaking hate it. I hate how many iterations there's been. It just drives me nuts. I can't, if I sell you a Tesla Powerwall today, and you call me in 5 years and go, hey Dale, I'm ready to add another Powerwall. Guess what? There's like a 99% chance I can add another battery. And it's probably a Powerwall 3 or an expansion battery. I'll probably be able to do one or the other. Enphase, on the other hand, if I sold you this Enphase system with one 10C and you go, oh, well, maybe we add on the other one in a couple years. Let's see how the one goes first. And you call me in 3 years, there's a 50% chance I'll be able to sell you another 10C. And there's a 50% chance it's even gonna, the battery that's available at that time is even gonna be compatible with this. There has been zero consistency for the organization when it comes to their battery technology and it being backwards and forwards compatible. Very different approach than Franklin Whole Home, very different approach than Tesla, very different approach than even SolarEdge. Now SolarEdge is going in a completely new direction, so there's that. And with their stuff, you really just needed to change out the inverter to make their battery compatible, but they've actually had like two iterations, well, 3. I mean, think about it. We've had the LG Chem, we had the RESU10, you had the RESU16, and then you had their home battery, which there was, I think, 2 different models of that one. There was the first generation, and then they came out with the second generation of that home battery. And now they're working on their next gen system, which is super weird. When you go to SolarEdge's website, there's zero information about this battery, but they post on their LinkedIn about it. They post on, I mean, I've seen posts about it, and it's like, I've seen videos of them showing how badass it is, but there's nothing on their website about the damn thing. And it's like, well, thanks, I can't really do any content on this battery and talk about it. I want to. I've looked at the spec sheets. I have been looking at the new EP Cube 2.0. I'm actually kind of excited to do a video on that. I haven't done it yet. But I've been talking to the guys over at Canadian Solar on this new generation, and it's definitely improvement. I still think I don't know how it mounts. I haven't really gone that far into it, but I still really think that there is room for improvement in the solar industry on the modular battery configuration, on how it attaches to the wall. I think these guys need to develop a bracketing system that uses racks from the solar system. That to me makes the most sense. Like, go to K2 Systems and develop, use their existing open channel rail, which is almost like Unistrut, and say, hey guys, we want to figure out how we can just mount 2 rails, like railroad tracks, to the wall, and then attach the batteries to them for it to increase. And then if we want to add more or decrease it, you have your rail that goes continuous. Sounds really easy, rather than doing a bunch of different modular pieces. I think SolarEdge's approach is maybe one of the easier ones. It looks like it has a base brack, and then they stack up, and then there's a top brack for it, and then the inverter actually isn't really connected to it, which I do kind of like. I don't know. Again, I haven't looked all the way into it, but the EP Cubes, also the inverter can be separate, I believe. It doesn't stack the same way. Sadly, they weren't able to make their new inverter backwards compatible with the existing batteries. That's one of those things in the sustainable industry that I feel is really important, is that these products be backwards compatible, be forward thinking, but backwards thinking. Like, if you have inventory of something else and you're refreshing a product like the hybrid inverter, can you not make a modular piece that adapts it, right? Like adapter, like you would with the Tesla, like NACS to CSS, right? To me, that makes sense, right? You have an adapter to CSS to NAC. Can't you make a hybrid inverter adapter to a battery? I don't know. I think there's room for improvement if we're supposed to be sustainable. But, at the end of the day, I'm thankful for any of you out there watching. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving, have very safe travels. And I know I'll be thankful for the sun this year as it provides power to millions and millions of homeowners throughout America. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one.